Hey, it's Fisk. So, all for the game. Interesting series. I have the books here. I just reread all of them, and I just finished The Sunshine Court last night, technically this morning at like 1 a.m. because I could not stop reading it. And let's talk about it. I have some thoughts. Yes. So let's just start off how I'm gonna structure this. I'm going to talk about my opinions of The Sunshine Court first. And I'll try not to give spoilers, but I probably will. And then I'll go into my thoughts on like the regular books, like the big three, like the Foxhole Court, the Raven King, and the Kingsman, and like some thoughts I have on those. And just FYI, this is like my favorite series ever. I reread it every single year. I've read it at least the first three. I think this was like my 6th time rereading them. So yeah, not hating on anyone's favorite book series. But also, if you don't know the series, All for the Game by Nora Sakovic, and anything I say makes you want to read it, I would definitely look up the trigger warnings first. Because it's very trigger heavy, trauma heavy. Yeah. But general overview of the series, what it is, if you don't know what it is and you're just listening to me yap. The first 3 books of the series follow this dude, Neil Jostin, as he, I'm trying not to give spoilers, it's like this sports book. It's called Exy. It's literally just lacrosse. They describe it as lacrosse with the violence of hockey. And lacrosse is already pretty violent. So I don't really know what they mean by with the violence of hockey. But anyways, and it's indoors, and it's not played on grass. It's not played on like turf. It's played on I think like that hard stuff. I don't know what it's called. Like the stuff that basketball courts are made of. I think it's played on that, but honestly, I'm not really sure. But yeah. And so it follows this dude Neil Justin as he gets recruited to play for the Foxhole Court, this university called Palmetto State University. I don't think it's a real university. It's in South Carolina. I don't know. It's like half the universities in the series are real and the other half are fake, and I don't know which are which, but whatever. And he just has to get through life, and it's like mafia stuff happens. Technically it's the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, but same difference. I think. I don't know anything about the mafia. I'm not a mafia girly, a mob wife. Not my aesthetic. But yeah, so the Sunshine Court. The Sunshine Court follows Jean as, okay, there are 2 main teams. Sunshine Court brings in a 3rd one, but basically in the start of the series there are 2 main teams: the Foxes, which are the Palmetto State, and the Ravens, which are Edgar Allan. And the Ravens are the ones that are like super connected to the mafia, and they hate the Foxes because this dude Kevin used to be on the Raven line and now he transferred to the Foxes. Big whoop. But yeah, so they have beef, and there's lots of violence and death that goes on. But the Sunshine Court follows Jean, another character from the Raven Court, the Ravens, the Edgar Allan, whatever they're called, as he transfers to USC, University of Southern California, the Sunshine Court, or the Gold Court, or whatever it's called, the Trojans. Sorry, my mom walked in. But what was I saying? The Sunshine Court follows Jean, who was like horrifically brutalized. At the end of like this 3-book series, at the end of this one, Jean gets taken out of the game, and so he transfers to the Trojans, and it just follows him trying to unpack all the trauma of that, and maybe starting up a little something with Jeremy, the captain of the Trojans. But we'll see. Nora Sakavic is in the middle. Not in the middle. I think she just started writing book 2, like the sequel of the Sunshine Court. I will be buying that as soon as it comes out. But anyways, getting into my opinions. The Sunshine Court, oh my god, I loved it so much. I read it in one day, basically in 2 sittings, because I ate lunch in the middle. But yeah, it was so good. It had me like giggling, kicking my feet, like I was like, yee! But like, it has all the charm of like the first 3 books, with a lot less of seeing the like trauma happen to the characters and more just discussing like the ramifications of it, which I like a lot more. And also less problems. This is so much less problematic than the first 3. We'll get into my problems with the first 3 eventually. But yeah, it's very much like, I thought it was so funny because what Nora Sakavic does with like the Trojans, which is like the team that John transfers to, it's basically like a queer utopia. Like, name one cishet character in this book other than people on the boxes, because you can't, like, they don't exist. And it was very nice. I thought it was so fun. And one of the characters is like non-binary, and I thought that was really cutesy. And then there's like, I don't even know, like, I don't know, I just love seeing non-binary people. And since XC is like a co-ed sport, there's never like a discussion of like, oh, like, can we let trans people on team, blah blah blah, which I thought was really nice. But yeah, it literally is just like the nicest book ever. Like, it's so cutesy. Had me giggling, kicking my feet, like I was going insane reading this. And the only problem that I had with it was the ending, which I'll get into. This is getting into like some spoiler territory. I don't know what I'll stop talking about spoilers. I'll put a timestamp on the screen when I'm done talking about spoilers for the Sunshine Court. Anyways, but so the ending, so Neil shows up to Los Angeles, because apparently Los Angeles is Southern California. I don't know California geography though, so don't. So I don't know if that's actually true. Who knows? But so Neil shows up to the Sunshine Court, and he's like, Jean, like, the Moriyamas, like that Yakuza mafia group, like whatever, they are cutting out the Moreau branch. Like, they're dropping the Moreau family, which is, Jean was a Moreau, and he got sold to the Ravens to be like Rico's little like pet. Whatever. And then they like talk to the FBI, and then Neil's like, I put out a hit on the dude who like attacked you, because Grayson at the end, she includes the fact that Rico got 5 of the backliners. One when Jean was 16 and just got sold to the Ravens. He's like, oh, this would be fun. Like, what if I got 5 of the backliners to rape him? And I was like, why was that included? But whatever. And Grayson is one of those 5, and he's like really, really into it. Like, the other 4 just like ignore that it happened, and they're like, okay, that's just something that happened. Like, we got told by Rico to do it, and it's never happening again. Like, leave me alone. And then Grayson is like, blah, 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 blah. Like, he's always trying to do it again, when when Jean is like still living with the ravens, and I'm like, okay. And then Grayson randomly comes back at the end because his brother is on the USC Trojans, and he's like, my brother wants to talk to you. And then Grayson comes back and attacks Jean, and I was just like, what is happening right now? And then Neil at the end is like, I took a hit out, Grayson's gonna be dead. And I was like, what? It was just a very abrupt change to stuff that would be in the original three books, like stuff about like, oh, like I'm murdering you, blah blah blah. Whereas this one is very like detached from all the mafia stuff. It's very detached from all the murder and gore and whatever. Like that stuff does not happen in this one. Like it talks about like suicide and stuff like that, but it's all very like unpacking the ramifications of what happens to the people who were in the nest, which is where like the ravens live, like what is going on in their psyches, like what they went through, stuff like that. And then at the end there's just a very, very abrupt switch back into like the mafia stuff, like the talking to the FBI, making a cover story, blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't understand. And it didn't even last long enough to, I feel like, warrant a switch. Like, I feel like it did not need to be in the book. Like, we didn't really know anything about the Moreaus in the like first three. And I understand why you would want to talk more about what the Moreau family is, but also it's not really said at all. Like, I still don't know what the Moreau's connection to the Moriyamas was. I know that they had some kind of connection, but like I don't know what it was. So I just feel like it wasn't necessary. I feel like it just threw off all the like coziness found family aspect of the Sunshine Court and the relationship that Jean has with all of the like Trojans and like his teammates, and he's finding all that. And then there's randomly a switch back into that violence, and I feel like if there had to be a switch back into violence, which I don't think there had to be, it would have made no difference at all if that wasn't in this. Because it's literally just in the last half, not the last half, like the last like 30 pages, like I said. Literally in the last like 20-30 pages, there's that switch. And I was just like, this did not need to happen. And it also doesn't unpack what Jean felt about that change like at all, other than him being like, wow, maybe I have friends. I was just like, that's lackluster. But other than that, I did give it 5 stars. I'm anxiously awaiting until when the sequel to the Sunshine Court comes out, which I don't know when it will. But yeah, sorry for the hiccup. But departing from the Sunshine Court and talking about the first 3, obviously I love these books so much. Like, there's a lot of like triggering stuff and trauma and like blah blah blah, but it didn't really feel like torture porn most of the time. Like, I thought like almost all the stuff that was included, I was like, this makes sense. Like, I don't want to say like, oh, I love when Drake was in the picture, because but it's understandable that the characters would have gone through that and their like reactions to it and stuff like that. And it took Andrew off his like medication and stuff like that, which, if you're just listening to me yap again, Andrew is like Neil's love interest, kind of. He like protects Neil and Kevin when they're with the Palmetto State Foxes, etc., etc. But yeah, it took him off his like medication stuff, which no one wanted him to be on, so I guess I was like, okay. Some gripes I had. My main one for the first book, because it doesn't happen in the later 2 books, but with the character of Nikki, so gross. Like, I feel like no one, I don't want to say no one talks about it, because I think I've seen like one TikTok of someone talking about it. I don't really remember. But Nikki is very much characterized as like this bubbly person. Like he's the outgoing one of the whole like Andrew, Aaron family. And he's like very charismatic and like bubbly, and like everyone loves him. And I feel like that's a great characterization. The second two books, Nikki is fine. But in the first one, he makes me so uncomfortable. Like, he makes so many like sexual comments about Neil, when Neil is very much like, I'm not into that. Everyone else is like, stop. And regardless of how much Neil is like, that's never gonna happen, I don't like you, like, leave me alone, stop saying this stuff, he just keeps doing it. He non-consensually like forces like a kiss onto Neil at one point. And then after Neil wakes up from being drugged by Andrew and the rest, which that's neither here nor there, like, Neil wakes up in a bed alone with Nikki. And I'm like, this just gives me such bad vibes. Like, none of it had to be included. Like, it would have made absolutely no difference to just delete those sentences, have Neil wake up in a different place. Like, it would have made absolutely no difference other than taking away Nikki's rape vibes in the first book. And I just don't know why it was included, and I'm not a fan. Another gripe I have, which, when we were talking about Andrew's medication, the talk of medication in these books is so, like, bad. Like, it's there's one character on medication, Andrew, and it makes him into, like, this, like, insane dude. Everyone calls it an antipsychotic medications, even though no one is sure if Andrew even has that. Also, antipsychotic medication isn't real. Like, there's no medication for psychosis. People who are like bipolar or have schizophrenia or stuff like that don't take antipsychotic medication. They usually take antidepressants, so that, or just like other types of SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, to even out that mood, to stabilize their mood. So I don't really understand what she means by antipsychotic medication. And it's very much presented as this is a bad thing, it's making him crazy, he has to get off it. And I just don't think that's a very responsible take to have, and I'm not a fan of it. Another gripe I have, also in the first book and throughout the next two books, but not as much, the amount of homophobia. Like, there's this character, Seth, who everyone is supposed to hate. He gets killed in the first book. He just, like, says slurs. And everyone's like, whoa, that's not cool, bro. But that's basically the response. Other than Andrew being like, I don't like that word, and then, like, threatening to kill him, which I was like, okay. But Seth's homophobia, I can kind of understand, because, like, everyone is meant to hate him. He gets killed. I'm like, and he's, like, one of the people who's, like, holding all the foxes apart from each other, like, one of the things preventing teamwork from happening. So I was like, okay, I guess it makes sense. But then Aaron is also very, very homophobic. Like, every single time anything, like, anytime Nikki talks about his boyfriend, or, like, talks about how, like, a man is hot or something, like, Aaron is like, oh, that's so disgusting, bro, why do you have to bring that up? And when Aaron finds out that, like, Andrew and Neil have started a relationship, he's like, keep it away from me, bro. Ugh. And, like, I just don't understand why Aaron has to be homophobic. Like, what's the point? Other than just having a homophobic character. Like, he doesn't grow at all. He doesn't stop being homophobic at the end of the third book. He stays equally homophobic throughout all of the books. And I just don't get it. Like, why? What's the point? Also, he was raised in California. I get people can be homophobic in California, but, like, come on, bro. Like, there's so many gay people in California. Like, you're not telling me you had that attitude in California. But whatever. Maybe it's just shock value for when his twin turns out to be gay. Like, oh, one's gay and one's homophobic. But I don't know. Like, I don't know why that was included. Another thing is the random, like, mention for, like, one sentence in, like, the second or third book, and then the random introduction of Theodora, whatever her name is. I don't know. But, I was like, what? So, okay. So, Thea is Kevin's girlfriend. Kevin is the one who was, he got his hand broken by the Ravens, by Rico on the Ravens. And then he ran away to the Foxes. And so, he has a girlfriend, Thea, and it's mentioned that she has already graduated, and it says she was a senior when Kevin was a freshman, and that when she went in as a freshman, Kevin was already living in the nest, and that's how they know each other. I'm like, you're telling me that this 18-year-old, and she was a super senior, by the way, a 5th-year senior, when he was a freshman. So she's 4 years older than him. So you're telling me this 18-year-old went in, saw a 14-year-old being horrifically abused by the Ravens, by Rico and the coach of the Ravens, Tetsuji, and just all of that. And you were like, that's someone I want to date. Like, you're joking. That cannot be true. That's so gross. Like, why did you have to include that? Why does Kevin have to have been groomed by Thea? And everyone's like, oh, it's such a great relationship. Like, they're so amazing for each other. And they're not amazing for each other. The one time we see Thea in the book is when Kevin is like, Rico broke my hand. And Thea's like, no, he didn't. Like, she refuses to believe that the Ravens and Rico have ever done Kevin wrong. And I'm like, you're telling me this is a relationship I'm supposed to be rooting for? A woman who groomed a child and doesn't believe him when he says that he's been abused. Like, why? What's the point of including that? It's just gross. And it makes me upset. It makes me mad. Why did that have to be included? You could have just taken out the 2 sentences that mention Thea is substantially older than him, and just not had it in there. Wouldn't have been that hard in the slightest. But yeah, I think that's it. We talked about Thea. We talked about, I don't know what else we talked about because my mind is blinking from yapping too much because I'm not used to talking. And yeah, that's everything. Well, have a nice day. I hope everyone slays. If you haven't read All for the Game, which is the name of this series, this is the first book, The Foxhole Court by Nora Sakovic. Would I recommend it? Not really. It's very traumatizing and triggering, but if you want to read it, it's definitely a choice. Look up the trigger warnings. But yeah, have a nice day. Bye bye. See you all the next time I make a video. Bye.